was a cannon that only worked for 5 feet, but dealt 2d100 damage. Welcome to the Twisted Pint Tavern. Today we're visiting our own tavern Discord server to hear some of the stories our locals have told us over a few pints. Be sure to join our Discord server using the link in the description, as in there you can share your stories, chat all things D&D, and you even get a free homebrew tavern menu for your games. Anyway, on to the video. So I've been running Icewind Dale. A few sessions back, the players were being chased by a Yeti. As they were running down the mountain, an avalanche began behind them. 3 players managed to get out of the way, but the Warlock didn't have enough movement. So he decided to take a shield, jump on it, and shield surf down the mountain. He rolled well on his initial acrobatics check, so he managed to get ahead of the avalanche and basically surf it like a wave. After a few moments, he began to near the ravine they crossed on the way up. He decided to try and jump it. It was about 50 feet across and 150 deep. He rolled like a 4 on his acrobatics check and fell into the ravine. He rolled fall damage and was 2 away from instantly dying. But he survived, made his death saves, and was uncovered by the other players. Alright, so sledding down an avalanche on a shield definitely sounds cool. I'm on board with that. However, trying to jump a 50-foot ravine off of a shield, that's I think where the problem came in. Figured I'd stop in and drop a pretty great story from our pirate game that happened the other night, DM'd by our own lovely tavern keep. That's me. The group walks into a tavern to get a drink and housing for the night, but arrives to see a bard in the middle of telling one of our own greatest tales. Upon seeing us walk in, he runs over and introduces himself as Renter, our biggest fan who knows all of our journeys. He had an old map and wanted our help to find a temple on it, as it would be an amazing story. The Echo Knight and I, the Four Elements monk, look at each other and share in our distrust, but decide to let him lead us on the quest. He is only a bard after all, and our melee sorcerer was feeling treasure hungry. But before heading off, I say one thing to the Echo Knight in private. If our new friend goes against the plan at any point, weaken his will, our code phrase for Hex's wisdom. Lo and behold, after obtaining the artifact he was hoping to find, he suddenly appeared in the next room over, adorned with mage's robes and a crooked smile. Thank you for your assistance in retrieving this. It really will make a good story. However, it is better if somebody dies. He said this while reaching for an obelisk that would release a poison gas into the room that the 3 of us were now alone in. I gave a nod to the Echo Knight and yelled back, "You're right, it is a better story if someone dies. So why are you leaving?" As we sprung into initiative, I rolled a 19 on the die, making me first. I used my elemental discipline to cast Hold Person, which he now has disadvantage on because of the hex. He fails and freezes in place. The Echo Knight was up next, and let's just say a crit with a flintlock and exploding dice, especially against a mage, is pretty much guaranteed to do the job, and it did quite well. AKA, we killed the BBEG before he could become one. Yeah, so when I wrote this little mini adventure for the party, I didn't expect it to go pretty much any of the ways that they took it, and definitely did not expect them to kill the guy before he made his escape. But hey, sometimes the players pull stuff like that off. And also, before someone comments down below that Hex doesn't technically give you disadvantage on saving throws, I know, I've heard it a million times before, but it's how we initially ran it, and so we just continue doing it, and it really hasn't seemed that busted, so we just have fun with it. One of my players played as a living armor warforged, where he still needed to eat and sleep to repair himself. But here's the kicker. Every time he ate something, he would gain a characteristic of the thing he ate. Whether that be silver or dragon scales or someone's brain, he would gain a detail to his body. When he lost his hand from black acid, he spent the next few sessions without a hand and compensated by tying one of his swords to the stump until he found his most treasured item. It was a mimic gauntlet that acted like a prosthetic, and the secret it had, I had him roll a d20 to determine what secret function it would have, was a cannon that only worked for 5 feet, but dealt 2d100 damage. And he got very creative with fighting with it. Yeah, okay. 2d100, I get it, really low minimum damage. You can only deal 2 damage with it, but you could also deal 200. That's a lot. He once put the arm behind a door, since it could move with little mimic legs, and when the enemy came in, he said, "Sup," and the mimic hand, knowing that that was the signal, fired upon their back and insta-killed him. All in all, he was a force to be reckoned with as he dual-wielded 2 long swords that were short swords mistaken by him, a weighted sword, and a sword called the Lord of Blood. Great story. I love the idea of a mimic hand or a mimic gauntlet being a prosthetic. I think that's really cool. 2d100 damage is a lot. And you know what? If you're having a high fantasy, high magic game and you're just having a blast with it, pun not intended, but it is now, then sure, 2d100, but that's a lot of damage. For this next one, a person named Swords was asked what the most badass thing he'd ever done in D&D was, and he had these two cool stories to tell. As a DM, the most badass thing I did during an evil campaign, I had a dark god give a 3-hour-long ritual to one of my players. This ritual basically caused a power word kill on an entire city, ripped the souls out of the people, and then force-fed them down the PC's throat, turning them into a dark god, which was the same enemy for a follow-up good campaign with the same players. And then we had a long conversation about this in the server, but I absolutely love when players become the BBEGs of the next campaign. Like, you don't want to do it all the time, and you have to do it in the right way, but especially here where it's an evil campaign, it's kind of like the prequel for the main campaign where you're setting up the villains, and the players have that connection to them because they were the villains. As a player, the most badass thing I did was more hilarious than anything. I was playing a crazy gnome artificer named Erwin Magitek, and we snuck in through the back of an underground tavern. We noticed the boss sitting at a table with a couple of goons, and of course Erwin got a stupid idea. So he had the barbarian grab a sealed keg of gunpowder and chuck it into the room at the table. I had a revolver that I invented with a slight fire enchantment on it. I managed to shoot the keg of gunpowder out of midair. Because it was a surprise attack, the DM ruled it as a crit. So it killed the boss in one go and did over double health on the goons, which turned them into jelly. It was chaos and glorious. This is why you should be careful introducing gunpowder into your games. And I know, but Zill, you're running a pirate campaign with cannons and gunpowder. I'm aware, and it's had its consequences, but it's also a lot of fun. Swords also had more stories about how the party from the evil campaign pretty much all became BBEGs for the next one, so if you're interested in reading those and more stories, go back to the Tavern Discord server and check it out. I wake up on a beach after a cataclysmic tsunami. I run down the beach and talk to an NPC who's immediately killed with arrows. For about 5 or 6 turns, I run down the beach to a ship. I'm knocked unconscious by one of these arrows that takes my leg off. The DM allows me to yell one word. I yell in hopes for a deal with God or the devil. Fail.exe. A large storm sets in, the other members heard me yell, so they all set in motion to help the wounded man. They have to hoist someone through a window and the person does it with success. I pass the death saves, but I'm not stabilized properly, and that person fails their next 3 rolls to save me with what can only be described as a gross abuse of a corpse, and I'm back unconscious, making death saves. I crit fail and get a 3 to follow. I roll up a character 45 minutes later, and I'm back in. I'm under the deck of the ship, and the DM says the last thing you remember is you were planning a mutiny against your captain before being knocked unconscious by him. I wake up to things being tossed from above me. In character, I can only assume it's my crew or the captain or others coming to rob the treasures. Then the party enters. I begin distracting myself with magic and fighting broke out. I was bitten to death after stealing someone's sword twice, 1 game, dice are not on my side. So basically, you died because of some failed medicine checks, and then you rolled a new character up just to be killed, I'm guessing by the party? Dice were definitely not on your side, friend, and it would seem neither was the party. But anyway, that's gonna do it for today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you've not done so already, and don't forget to join the Twisted Pint Tavern Discord server using the link in the description. We chat all things D&D, we share stories, there's D&D memes, there's a lot of stuff in there. It's kind of hard to summarize. You're just gonna have to come check it out. But anyway, thanks again, and I'll see all you wonderful people in the next video. You know, for the record, I didn't expect that magic bard guy to live anyway. I expected the group to go back to the tavern he teleported back to and kill him there. But I definitely at least expected him to make his grand escape. That was in the plan.